5 months ago, my success story was about manifesting my two friends back together who had been separated for over 10 years. Everyone loves them together, but they absolutely hated each other, especially my girlfriend, but I felt she was unhappy without him and he was unhappy without her. This was my mental diet. They agreed not to divorce, they are millionaires, because it is better for the devil, you know. When I started my mental diet and SATs, it seemed to work on my girl's husband immediately, hence my post about 5 months ago. My girl, not at all, and I didn't get it. So I kept persisting. Finally, I realized I had to trust that it was done in my imagination, and my impatience was driving me mad. This was about 5 weeks ago when I guess I let go of trying to control the timing and the urgency. I also accepted the present that they were not currently together, but that was okay. In my imagination it was good to feel that they were. I kid you not, 2 weeks ago we had a phone conversation and she admitted she was not happy without him. What I had been saying in my mental diet, my jaw dropped because this is unlike her. I just knew it was done, just knew it. They moved back in together last week and are giving it another go, and admitted all these years, over 10 years, they were miserable without each other. Like my mental diet. I forgot which Neville Goddard book or lecture it was, but a light touch is all that is needed. The assumption will harden into fact. It will. Stop looking for signs. Signs follow, they do not precede. Begin to reverse the statement, seeing is believing, to believing is seeing. Start now to believe, not with the wavering confidence based on deceptive external evidence, but with an undaunted confidence based on the immutable law that you can be that which you desire to be. You will find that you are not a victim of fate but a victim of faith, your own. Neville was trying to push us to reverse the way we look at the world. Now the natural view of the world is seeing is believing. This is the physical view of the world. Most of us hold the view that seeing is believing. It is the widespread idea that we should only believe something if we can see it with our own physical eyes. Believing is seeing is the reversal of this view of the world. Believing is seeing is the spiritual view of the world. The idea here is that whatever we see before us right now is a result of our inner-held convictions, our beliefs, and the thoughts we have faith in. Now, I must be honest here, when I first heard this statement, I didn't really buy into it myself. I had always been a very rational thinker and I very much subscribed to the notion that the world was truly a case of seeing is believing. My outlook on the world was one of, if I couldn't see it with my own two physical eyes, then it was a false. I would even sometimes say it to my family and friends, if I can't see it with my own two eyes, then I can't believe it. But despite my reservations regarding this notion of believing is seeing, I decided to test it out anyway. I quite literally had nothing to lose. I was so keen to radically change my life that I was willing to give it a try. Now I also want to mention here that because of my insistence that the world was purely a case of seeing is believing, I also firmly held the view that I was a victim of fate. I had seen numerous events repeat themselves in my life and I had just assumed that I was a victim of fate, as many other people do. I had no idea that I was a victim of my own faith. I had no idea that the repeated failures in my life were a result of my beliefs and were not predestined. I also had no idea that the depression I suffered with was also a thing that I truly believed in within myself and had no existence in itself. Anyway, I am pleased to report that I sit here 5 years on from this decision I made regarding testing out the notion of believing is seeing, and I can now confirm that what Neville teaches is very much true. I have a deep conviction in myself now that my life is merely a representation of my faith, of my beliefs. I started this journey broke, stuck in a job I was bored of, depressed, anxious, carrying too much body fat, having a very gloomy outlook about the world, having the people around me treating me with very low value and often treating me with disrespect. I felt demotivated. I also had very low ambition. It also got to a point where I didn't even like looking at myself in the mirror any longer. I really was at rock bottom. Anyway, fast forward, 5 years on, I am now financially comfortable. I have my own home, I own a car I love, I absolutely love the job I do, I actually look forward to going to work instead of dreading it, my mental health is fantastic. I have bad days as we all do, but I constantly maintain an underlying optimism, despite any outer circumstances that I may be facing currently. My body fat is lower now in my 30s than it was when I was 21. I am lean, muscular, fit and am filled with energy. People now treat me with respect instead of disrespect. I am often, openly complimented, instead of disrespected. I now have good relationships with family members, that I used to have difficult relationships with. I also take full responsibility for my life, knowing that whatever I don't like about it, is caused by myself and no one other than myself. Most importantly of all, I have a level of self-confidence and happiness now, that I never thought originally possible. I didn't actually intend for this post to become so personal or long just to say, but as I started writing it, I realized that I had actually proven to myself categorically that Neville was correct. And when I say correct, I mean again, that the true nature of reality is believing is seeing and not seeing is believing. I also am grateful for the day that I truly began to realize that I was no longer a victim of fate, but a victim of my own faith.
For a great while, I have lurked around this community, having read a great deal of posts, so as to strengthen my faith in the law and bolster my courage throughout my own journey. Insofar as this is all concerned, I would like to share my own experiences. I was raised in a fairly religious household, one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Despite what some may think, the religion itself is surprisingly intellectual and posited that miracles in the colloquial sense do not happen, that God does not work in that way. When praying, you were often told never to ask for material things or things of any sort that were not in concordance with His will or the religion or organization, as many witnesses often refer to it. However, in almost every instance, when I did pray for something in line with the religion, it never failed to be. I had seen so many instances in which things were seemingly maneuvered to such an incredible degree that I had no other reason than to believe that something beyond this physical construct of reality was at play. About a year's time ago, I left the religion as I began to reconcile the nature of my sexuality and the inconsistencies of doctrine, namely on account of the former. The witnesses have no tolerance whatsoever for anyone outside of their shamefully limited view of sexuality. In doing so, I lost my faith in the divine. I didn't believe there was a God or a power of some higher sort influencing the course and direction of our lives. More recently, however, I returned to researching and trying to understand the law of assumption from a more pragmatic perspective. I must see or experience it in order to believe it. In any regard, whether advertently or inadvertently, I came to experience what I would very much like to and consider a tremendous success. I was in the process of applying to universities around the country. Because, however, I was awarded a scholarship that would allow me to attend any university in the state of Florida with fully paid tuition, my choices were relegated only to that of Florida. A year prior to this, I had gone to the University of Miami School of Architecture to shadow a student. I sat for a lecture and had the opportunity to walk through the drafting and lecture rooms. I knew from that point on, that this was the school I would attend. The dilemma occurred regarding tuition. A prospective applicant wishing to attend the University of Miami will be paying nearly $500,000 out of their noses if they receive no financial aid or scholarships. To make matters worse, my scholarship would only cover a small portion of the tuition to attend the university. By the time of my graduation in 2029, I would have been nearly $475,000 in student debt. However, when the time came to apply to schools, I decided that I would attend the University of Miami, and nothing was going to stop me. So bold was I that I did not apply to any other school in the state, to the great dismay and panic of my mother and high school counselor. I was taking a tremendous gamble on my education. During the process of preparing to apply to the school, I began composing my portfolio for the School of Architecture. During this time, I had set the intention that I would be the #1 applicant to the college, and I envisioned myself being welcomed by the teaching staff congratulating me on my achievement. As for my essays, I did these the night before submitting my final application. On the 1st of January, I submitted my application and paid my $80 fee through the College Board. I would wait nearly 2 months until the decision was released on the 28th of February. During this time, my mother was greatly fearful of the outcome, knowing that if I should be turned away, I would have to wait an entire academic year before applying to schools again. However, with tremendous confidence and impudence, I reassured her that I would most surely be accepted into the university and that there simply wasn't anything to worry about. It is already done, the cat is in the bag, I would say. Did I have my doubts from time to time? Most certainly, I did. However, I reassured myself that all was well. If I did not get into the school, I could easily wait for the next round of applications. There wasn't a thing to be worried about. The decisions were released on February 28 at 5 p.m. Just before then, I had taken a nap and set my alarm for the above time. I was confident, rested easy, and assured that I would receive the outcome I desired. When I awoke, I logged into the applicant portal. To my great elation, I was accepted to the university. I ran down the stairs and yelled to my mother and father, "I'm in. I told you it would be so. Did I not tell you it would be so?" And on the following Saturday, to my even further astonishment and joy, I was awarded $300,000 in scholarships. On Monday, my mother and I, in our sheer bewilderment, got in the car and drove south an hour and a half to the campus in Coral Gables. We walked into the offices at the School of Architecture and sat down with the director of admissions. I presented him the papers with my awards, wishing to know if it couldn't have possibly been a mistake, to which he said, "Absolutely not." When he pulled up my application on the computer, he told me that I was awarded the most money out of any other applicant and that I was, furthermore, the #1 applicant. Just exactly as I imagined it to be. He said they had never been so impressed with any applicant's portfolio and were immensely excited to have me as a student. What's even more, the admissions officer brought the assistant dean of the school and one of the professors to his office so that they could finally meet me. I was in tremendous shock. I was the #1 applicant out of all 1,800 students, applying from all over the world. Nothing could have sent me for such a loop. When my teachers and counselors found out, they could not have been more shocked. My old AP U.S. history came into my AP government class across the hall and announced to everyone my achievement and how proud he was of me. It is a testament to faith and brazen impudence. Let nothing, and I truly mean nothing, stand in the way of you and your dreams. But the story does not end here. I was in the process of looking for summer work before going down to the University of Miami. I had gone about to several grocery stores, shops at the mall, and hardware shops. I have a great passion for building. Finally, my mother suggested that I go to an architecture firm to inquire if they were looking for an internship, and so I did. After having to leave from a plumbing store, I began looking for a firm nearby, and to my surprise, one happened to be right across the street. I went inside, and to my utter surprise, the firm practiced entirely classical and traditional styles, which I wanted to pursue in school. I introduced myself and presented my resume and portfolio. Then and there, on the spot, I was given a paid internship. But it gets better. Unfortunately, and as I would later come to find, the firm to which I applied had a reputation for being negligent and not following through with such commitments, and so in the meantime, while I waited to hear from the firm regarding my internship, I began to look for other firms. That evening, I went home and made a list of all of the other firms nearby, almost all of which were in Palm Beach, 10 to 15 minutes from home. My mother wanted me to have a job as soon as possible, and so on the evening of that Tuesday, I told her I would most certainly have a job by the end of the week. There is nothing to worry about. On the Wednesday of that week, I went to all of the firms on my list. I walked all throughout Palm Beach and Worth Avenue stopping into different firms, nearly all of which turned me away, on account of my lack of experience, being that I had only graduated from high school 2 weeks earlier. However, I managed to stop into one firm, one little I knew was the best in Palm Beach and the Northeast, practicing entirely classical and traditional architecture of the most beautiful order. I knocked on their door and went in. I could tell they were quite surprised to see someone so young coming and inquiring about an internship. I presented my portfolio and resume and spoke to the director of the firm. On Friday of that week, I got a call. On Monday morning at 9 a.m., I would have a job. In fact, I was told to turn down the internship offer to the first firm that I had gone into. What's more, Word got around in Palm Beach regarding my position as an intern with the firm. To say the least, people were shocked that an 18-year-old fresh out of high school was working for the most prestigious firm in Palm Beach, all after having knocked on their door. I was invited to a social event where I had the opportunity to meet with interior designers and other architects. To my great surprise, one of the architects from the first firm I applied to happened to be there. He told me that the owner of the firm was looking for my resume but 2 weeks ago and hoped to get in touch with me so that I could begin working there. But as one of the interior designers said, too late, he's already been snatched up, their loss. People asked me about my hopes, goals, and ambitions and what I wanted to do as an architect. I told them of my dream of redesigning Washington, D.C., turning it into a city of unparalleled beauty, rivaling the cities of Europe. I was almost entirely certain that they would view this as frivolous and laughable. But it was just the opposite. They said nothing, absolutely nothing is impossible, and if you dream it, you will achieve it. I was even going to be put in touch with architects who specialized in government and civil design as they were so impressed with my ambition. And every day, and not for a moment or day prior, does this dream ever cease. I bask in the beautiful light of my vision. I see myself in the newly renovated capital of the United States amidst my buildings and my art. There I see it, I feel it, I hear, and so it shall be. In regard to love, I fell in love with someone a few years my senior. I had never known love like this, nor had I ever known someone with whom I shared so many endearing qualities and interests. For a month and a half, we spoke to one another, sometimes over the phone, mostly through text. My family, however, being unapproving of the nature of the relationship on the premise of sexuality, tried to put it to an end. I became desperate and clingy to the man I loved, trying to text him as often as I could. Eventually, this would drive him away. Later on, he responded to one of my texts. I was disheartened to learn that he had already fallen in love with someone else after this person confessed their feelings to him. I was heartbroken. He told me he did not wish for me to develop an unhealthy attachment, his reason for ceasing our communication for a time. In the end, he told me of how he very much still wished to be my friend and of how wonderful a person I was. Still, this did not bring me any comfort. We agreed to mutually part ways and to only get in contact once the summer was over when I was in college and in a much better state of mind. We both agreed it was for the best and that everything would be alright. He reassured me of his confidence in my ability to pull through and that all would be well. It still stung, however, to know that his heart was taken. Frankly, I was broken. He was the first man I loved and the first man who loved me. And so I then decided from that point forward that we would be together once again, no matter the circumstances prior or present. This is my reality, mine alone, and mine alone to shape as I please, to experience anything I wish. I disregarded this other person, a phantom really, as I saw them, simply as I had never seen him nor met him, especially since they lived in another state. Admittedly, it was tremendously difficult at first to ignore the circumstances surrounding me. I felt hopeless for a great while, let down. But since June, I have continuously fought my doubts and worries, my negative thoughts and assumptions. I gave them no attention, I starved them of fuel until they began to wither, and so they did. In time, I began to feel better, less dependent upon the happiness my love brought me, and to know that the world is truly my oyster. There are a myriad of things that will bring me 100 times more happiness and joy. Eventually, through the process of affirming and visualizing, which was all entirely foreign and unnatural at first, they began to take effect. I was beginning to believe them. I used all of my past successes to know that this desire would come true. Not too long ago, I reached out to the man I loved, to see how I was. I came to find that his boyfriend had left, becoming too busy with college, and couldn't continue with the relationship. While I was sorry for this outcome, I hate to say it, but who am I kidding? I was well over the moon. You see, I didn't know how all of this would transpire, I just knew that, in some way, shape, or form, it would. We are now in a loving and committed relationship with one another, an architecture student and an engineer, a perfect match. And no, my family doesn't, in case you were wondering, I'll take of that later. As of now, things are going wonderfully. I couldn't possibly be more happy in life. If you are struggling or are scrupulous of the law, which, at this point, I would not even associate with Neville Goddard or law, but a fundamental reality of existence and the universe, please, 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 take this as a lesson. I wish for this to inspire anyone with doubts. You can and will be happy. But you are the only thing that stands in between you and that happiness. If you must, get out of your own way and start trusting the process. Continue to affirm it every hour of the day. You have to begin weeding your garden, tilling and preparing the soil of your mind in which you will plant the seed of your desire. And if no such weeds exist, affirm, live it, see it in your mind's eye, feel it. Know it to be so. Just trust the process. It will feel strange and uncomfortable at first, but then maybe it won't. As of now, things are going wonderfully. I couldn't possibly be more happy in life. If you are struggling or are scrupulous of the law, which, at this point, I would not even associate with Neville Goddard or law, but a fundamental reality of existence and the universe, please take this as a lesson. I wish for this to inspire anyone with doubts. You can and will be happy. But you are the only thing that stands in between you and that happiness. If you must, get out of your own way and start trusting the process. Continue to affirm it every hour of the day. You have to begin weeding your garden, tilling and preparing the soil of your mind in which you will plant the seed of your desire. And if no such weeds exist, affirm, live it, see it in your mind's eye, feel it. Know it to be so. Just trust the process. It will feel strange and uncomfortable at first, but then maybe it won't. But know in any case, all is possible. Do not pigeonhole yourself, do not confine yourself to any present or past circumstances. The only prison that exists is the one you put yourself in. If you put yourself there by God, and yes, you being God can take yourself out. Nothing stands in the way of you and your desires but yourself. End of story. So get out of your own way, start living, and enjoy life, the rest will be taken care of. And know that you can and will be happy no matter what, with or without said desire, detachment. You must train your mind and use it to your own favor, for your own highest good. When you set your desire and make it so, so it will be. Live in the feeling, bask in its wonderful light, and you will realize it in due time. I send all of my love and confidence to those who read this. You will be successful, I promise. You are God,